So hello and welcome to the Maths Guide, and this is day 2 of week 1. But before we start this particular section, I want you to have a look at the idea of people getting on and off a bus. So let's imagine we have a bus. We don't know how many people are on it, but let's say 3 people get off. So we're going to say minus 3 to say 3 people get off. At the next stop, 5 people get on and 2 people get off. At the next stop, 7 people get on, and at the next stop, 9 people get off. So we're going to end up with a sequence of things that are happening. We can see that 3 people get off, 5 people get on, 2 people get off, 7 people get on, and 9 people get off. Let's see what happens all together. Let's group all the people who got off together. So we got 3 got off, another 2 got off, and another 9 got off the bus. So that's a total of 9, 10, 11. That's 14 people got off the bus. How many people got on the bus? Well, a total of 12 people got on the bus. So overall, we have 14 people getting off the bus, 12 people got on the bus. So more people got off the bus than got on the bus. So overall, we've got 2 people got off the bus, and we're going to say minus 2 to say the people that got off the bus. So this is just a little idea to think about negative numbers, but we're thinking about people getting on or off a bus, so increasing and decreasing. So when we decrease by 3 and then increase by 5, at this point here, more people have got on than have got off, so the number of people on the bus had increased by 2 people at this stage. Then it went back down to 0, then it increased by 7, and then it decreased by 9, so overall it was down by 2 people. So we had this number minus 2 to say 2 people had got off the bus. So I just want you to keep that idea in your mind when we're thinking about negative numbers, which we're going to look at now. Okay, so if we try to think of the idea of minus 3 apples, that doesn't make any sense. We know what 3 apples means, but we don't know what minus 3 apples means. It doesn't really mean anything. What about minus 3 degrees centigrade? Well, we're usually quite happy with the idea of temperatures of minus 3 degrees. So why is that? The thing is, when we think of minus 3 degrees, we mean 3 degrees less than some temperature, the freezing point of water. So it's like there's a certain amount of heat at the freezing point of water, and you go down 3 below that. So you can say minus 3 to mean 3 less than some value. And often we can look at that on a scale. So let's have a look at a temperature scale, getting hotter or getting colder. So where we have a 0 is some temperature, some value, kind of like maybe the amount of people on a bus is like the amount of heat in an object here, in a way. Okay? If it gets hotter, it goes up by 1 degree, up by 2 degrees, up by 3 degrees. So when we say 3 degrees Celsius, this plus 3 here, we mean 3 degrees greater than this value 0. When we say minus 1 or minus 2 or minus 3 degrees, we mean down 1, down 2, down 3. So 3 degrees below this 0 value. So when we're using plus and minus numbers, we're usually saying it in a reference to something. So above or less than, greater than, or fewer than, or sometimes in directions as well. We'd say plus to mean going forward, and then we'd use a minus to mean going backwards. Okay, so that's the initial idea. We can use ideas like minus 3 to mean 3 degrees less than a temperature, although the idea of 3 apples doesn't really make any sense. So let's have a look at some more stuff to do with temperature. Imagine Moscow is 7 degrees hotter than Leningrad. So here's a question. It's a little bit similar to yesterday's question, so let's think about it. If Leningrad is 10 degrees, what temperature is it in Moscow? Well, we know Moscow is 7 degrees hotter. Going this way, we start up here at 10 degrees. We go another 7 degrees up for a total of 17 degrees Celsius. So we have to start at 10, we go up 7, and we end up at 17. And that looks just exactly like the way you would normally add. The same way you'd add apples, 10 and 7 apples. But let's have a look at a slightly different idea. We're still thinking Moscow is 7 degrees hotter than Leningrad. But what happens if Leningrad is minus 3 degrees? Well, we know that minus 3 degrees means 3 degrees below 0. Down 1, down 2, down 3. So we want to know Moscow is 7 degrees hotter than Leningrad. So hotter is going to be in this direction. So we're going to go up 7. We're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We want to know where we end up. Well, we started 3 below, so we used up 3 just to get back up to 0. So we used up 3 of these 7, leaving us with 4 more to go up to plus 4 degrees. So minus 3 degrees plus 7 degrees brought us up to plus 4 degrees. And interestingly enough, minus 3 plus 7, you can think of it exactly the same as the idea on the bus. 3 people got off the bus, 7 people got on the bus, more people got on than got off the bus, so we ended up at plus 4 degrees. So generally, you can answer those questions just like that. Okay, let's have a look at the second type of question. So, just like yesterday, we're going to sort of reverse the question. We're still saying that Moscow is 7 degrees hotter than Leningrad, but we're asking, if Moscow is 17 degrees, what temperature is it in Leningrad? So remember, the first question, it tells you what temperature it is in Leningrad, and you added 7 to find out what it is in Moscow. But if we know what temperature it is in Moscow, we have to do the opposite of that adding. We have to go back down again. We have to subtract 7 degrees to find out what temperature it is in Leningrad. So we start at 17 degrees. We go down 7 degrees because it was 7 degrees hotter in Leningrad. Hotter than Leningrad means Leningrad is 7 degrees colder. We go down 7 degrees to 10 degrees. So that's just the same as apples. 17 apples minus 7 apples will give you 10 apples. However, what happens if we start off at a minus number? If Moscow is at minus 3 degrees, so there's your 0, we're down 1, 2 to minus 3 degrees. What temperature is it in Leningrad? Well, we know it's another 7 degrees colder, so it'll be minus 10 degrees. Again, this is exactly like the bus idea. 3 people get off, another 7 people get off, for a total of 10 people having got off the bus. So that's the way you want to think about these things. Keep thinking about people getting on and off of the bus, and that way you'll be able to answer this question 1 and question 2. So that brings us to the third type of question that we did yesterday. If Moscow is 10 degrees and Leningrad is 5 degrees, how much hotter is it in Moscow? Just put a little question mark on there. So if we work this out, Moscow's hotter than Leningrad. How much hotter is it? Well, we have to subtract the temperature of Leningrad from the temperature in Moscow. But one thing that I want you to do now is I want you to start writing down what you're doing as you do it. So the way you're answering this question, you could do it just in your head and go, oh, I can tell that's 5 degrees more. But the method that you would use is you say it's the temperature in Moscow less the temperature in Leningrad, which of course is 10 degrees. Take away 5 degrees. So Moscow is 5 degrees hotter than Leningrad. Let's see what happens when we have minus numbers. If Moscow is 5 degrees, if Moscow is 5 degrees centigrade and Leningrad is minus 3 degrees centigrade, how much hotter is it in Moscow? Same formula. It's the temperature in Moscow less the temperature in Leningrad. So now it begins to get a little bit less intuitive in your mind about how much hotter it is. This is when it's useful to have a formula. So if you create a formula with numbers that you understand, then you can use the formula with numbers that are a bit different. So it's the temperature in Moscow less the temperature in Leningrad, which is 5 degrees, take away negative 3 degrees. But the question is, what is that? No idea what 5 take away negative 3 is. So let's have a look at it on that scale that we looked at earlier. We know that 3 degrees minus 3 means 3 below 0. We know that plus 5 is 5 above 0. We've got 5 take away negative 3. But we can see that that's 1, 2, 3 to get to 0, and another 5 to get to 5. So we can see that's a total of 5 plus 3. So this formula, 5 take away negative 3, actually is 5 plus 3. And our answer is 8. So it seems perhaps a little strange thing to do, but we've just found out that subtracting a negative number is the same as adding it. Okay, so there's a few things you just need to remember in these questions. You need to remember the idea of being on the bus. If you start at -3 and go down another 7, you've got down a total of 10. And you can do that all the time as you go along. You start at +3, you go down 7, you go down 8, you go up 9. You can think of all these things separately, like people getting on and off a bus. If you start at -9, you can imagine that 9 people have just got off the bus. From there, if you want to subtract 7, you go down 7, another 7 people getting off the bus. That's a total of 16 people who've got off the bus. If 20 people get on the bus, then more people have got on than have got off altogether. So there you end up with 20 take away 16. So that's 4 people more have got off on the bus than off the bus. Just keep thinking about things on the bus, except for one strange idea. Let's say we started at -7, then we went up 10. Okay, that would bring us up to +3. That would be like 3 people having got on the bus. But let's say we wanted to subtract -5. That seems like a very strange thing to do, but we can see that when we have a formula, we end up with things like that. Once we start using formulas, which we need to do for these questions, we end up with trying to subtract negative numbers. So all you need to do when you're trying to subtract a negative number is remember that's the same as actually adding 5. And then again, it's exactly like people getting on and off the bus, and you just answer the question like that. So in summary, when you start thinking about positive and negative numbers, it can get a little bit confusing. So what we do is we use a formula. We start thinking about the question, we imagine the question as if it had ordinary numbers like counting apples, 10 apples and 5 apples, because we know how to do that, and we can think of a formula to work with that, like we did before. You just have the number of apples that John has less the number of apples that Mary has, and that will tell you how many more apples John has. Then we can use a formula just like that with plus and minus numbers. When we have plus and minus numbers, we just count up and count down, imagining people getting on and off a bus. However, occasionally we end up with a formula. We can end up in a situation where we end up with trying to subtract a -3. And all we need to know is that's the same as adding 3, and we're back on track again, just counting up and down like people getting on and off a bus. So we end up with a strange situation that going down by -3 means going up by +3. And actually the same thing happens as well. Going up by -3 means going down by 3. So apologies for the writing there, it's a little bit unclear, but we get the idea that a minus is changing the direction of something that's happening. Okay, but in general, use a formula using numbers that you know how to use, then just count up and down like people getting on and off a bus, and just remember that when we've got 2 subtractions, when you're subtracting a negative number, it's the same as adding a number. So have a go at those questions and see how it goes.